Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Now let us try and separate if we have a mixture of two miscible liquids. Now there it is. When we had two immiscible liquid, it became very easy for us to separate them because they got separated into two separate layers. But what would you do when they mix together completely? That means they are forming homogeneous mixture. Now let us take two such miscible liquids. For one can be water, the other can be acetone. Now, both water and acetone are miscible liquids. When you mix them, you cannot distinguish them at all and they form a homogeneous mixture. In this kind of mixtures, for the separation, we need to identify the property. Now, what property would we identify? In case of water, water starts boiling at 100 degrees Celsius, whereas the boiling point of acetone is 56 degrees Celsius. So, there we got the key point that because of the difference of boiling point, we will be able to separate these components of the mixture. For that, we need to carry out a process that we call it as distillation. So, through the distillation technique, we will be able to separate these miscible liquids. And what is the basic principle? The difference of boiling point. So, for distillation process, the difference in the boiling point are taken into account. The difference of boiling point tends to be applied for the separation of the miscible liquids. Now, let us see what a distillation plant looks like. Here, for this process, we take a round bottom flask. So, a round bottom flask looks like this, somewhat like this. Okay, and we place it on a tripod stand. After that, we place a source of heat. Then, to keep it standing, we clamp it. Okay, to it is attached a condenser. So, we cork it and then we attach a condenser. A condenser is attached. Now, this condenser has an outlet and inlet for the jacket of water. So, we have an inlet and outlet for the cold water to pass in and pass out. So, through this we can let cold water flow in, whereas through it we can allow the warm water to flow out. So, this is filled with water. Now, this condenser is then attached to a beaker where it will be collected. So, for this distillation plant, we have a condenser, we have a beaker where the separated components can be collected. Here we have a round bottom flask. Then we have a stand which clamps the round bottom flask. And then we also have a spirit lamp. Alright. Now what do? We fill in the round bottom flask with the mixture, with the miscible mixture. So we have the round bottom flask which has been filled with the miscible mixture. Now when we start heating it, we find that the mixture starts boiling. Initially we keep the boiling point low. We start heating it gradually because we need to understand that acetone boils at 56 degrees Celsius whereas water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. So we gradually keep on increasing the heat and we try and bring it to 56 degrees Celsius. And how would we see it? The temperature can be maintained by inserting a thermometer. So we insert a thermometer into the system. With that, we will be able to understand what is the temperature. Now, as you keep on heating, what will happen? The acetone, which has low boiling point, will start evaporating and get converted into the gaseous state. So the liquid acetone, when it gets converted into the gaseous state, starts coming out through the delivery tube, through the condenser. Now we know the condenser is fitted with jackets of water. The water is allowed in and to pass out, so that there is always a maintenance of low temperature, due to which we find that this gaseous acetone starts converting into liquid acetone and starts collecting in the beaker. So the temperature is maintained between 56 to 60 degrees so that the acetone completely can get converted into the gaseous state and be collected in a separate beaker. Whereas water that boils at 100 degrees Celsius does not separate. So we carry on for some time, and then once we stop, we know that we had already separated water and acetone, two miscible liquids. Water that boils at 100 degrees Celsius remains in the round bottom flask, whereas acetone, which boils at 56 degrees Celsius, gets collected in the beaker. So with this process of distillation, you will be able to separate miscible liquids. The basic idea is that you have to see that the difference of boiling point should be around 25 Kelvin. So this difference should always be maintained. Now this distillation process is highly applicable in the refining of petroleum. Now the different components of petroleum have different boiling points. And we know the different components are petrol, kerosene, gasoline, diesel, coal tar, so on and so forth. So they are separated in the refinery through the process of distillation, and there specifically we call it as fractional distillation. The only difference is there is a fractionating column. So fractionating column is attached here, where there would be beads. There would be some marble beads, so that when the gas passes through the beads, it can get converted into the liquid state. And fractional distillation is carried out when the difference of temperature between the components is only 25 Kelvin. So even at this minute level of difference, you will be able to separate the different components of the miscible liquids. And as I already told you, they are used in the separation of the components of petroleum in the refineries. I hope this is clear. So in this separation technique, we had seen that we had taken the principle of difference of boiling point into account for carrying out the separation of two miscible liquids. So if we have a mixture of more than two miscible liquids, we will identify their different boiling points and then gradually start boiling them at that particular temperature. First, we will slightly boil it at a low temperature, so the first component will separate out. Then we will slightly raise the temperature so that the second component separates out, and so on and so forth till the final separation happens. You need to understand and take it a note that the temperature regulation has to be perfect. It's only then that you will be able to successfully separate the miscible liquids.